Welcome to Artist on Lockdown. I'm Ron Onesti from the Arcada Theater in St. Charles, Illinois, just outside of Chicago. And my guest tonight, he's one of the founders of a founding band of psychedelic rock, Vanilla Fudge, and the cult band Cactus. He backed on the drums the best of the best, including Ozzy Osbourne, Jeff Beck, Rod Stewart, and he's jammed with so many other legends from Jimi Hendrix to Led Zeppelin. Tonight, we are hanging and banging with my buddy, Carmine Appice. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm good. How you doing?
You know what? This is so cool for me, and I know for everybody out there, but I am such a fan. And to be with you tonight and to be able to do this, I just got to thank Steve and Ben and everybody and you for allowing me this time with one of my rock and roll heroes.
Oh, thank you so much. I mean, how many times have I played your venues? I mean, we love playing with you. You're the greatest promoter. You always treat the bands great. And you make some great food. Your meatballs are awesome.
Well, thank you so much, man. You know, again, we're excited to have you guys. I mean, you've almost become the house band some years between Fudge and all the other projects you're doing. I mean, Drum Wars with your brother Vinny. I just love that project. And the project Cactus that you put together, we're just about to put it together at the Arcada. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But, you know, you've had so many incredible experiences over the last 50 plus years in the biz. And I tell you, your book, Stick It, My Life of Sex, Drums, and Rock and Roll is a great read. It's an amazing recollection of all these great stories. And it's if you're a rock and roll fan, this is like must read TV, this book.
Yeah, thank you. Hey, you notice on that cover I'm wearing a red lace top.
You know what? That's right. It's a red lace. I didn't realize that.
Red lace top. Made by
that was the deal Mike. Back then, right?
Yeah, made by my friend Mike Vaughn, who went on to make Jimi Hendrix's clothes. We turned Jimi Hendrix on to him. And every time I see that book cover, I think, that's a red lace top. Come on, dude. Very feminine.
It worked then, it works now. And next time you're at the Arcada, I want to see you. I never thought I'd say this to another man, but I want to see you in that red lace top.
I can't fit in it.
So let's go back to those early years in the 60s when you were rocking with Vanilla Fudge. I mean, it's really something how you guys just blew up. And, you know, having people like, I don't know, Led Zeppelin open up for you?
They did. But, you know, we went on with everybody. We played with Led Zeppelin. I mean, let's say Hendrix and the Cream and all those kind of bands. And we used to blow everybody off, you know. And we always said, who's going to blow us off? Led Zeppelin. They're the first band to actually blow us off.
So you were traveling with so many of these guys too, at the Kinetic Playground, Jethro Tull. I mean, some of these shows that you did were like World Series of Rock 10 years before, 20 years before.
Yeah, and that Kinetic Playground gig was great because you had Jethro Tull opening up, Led Zeppelin in the middle, and Vanilla Fudge headlining. So you have Clyde Bunker. Clyde Bunker was the drummer of Jethro Tull. He was a Ludwig artist. We were all Ludwig artists. So then you had John Bonham, a Ludwig artist, and then me, a Ludwig artist. So when Jethro Tull was on, me and John would stand behind Clive, and we'd make spitballs. We'd throw spitballs at Clive, you know. And then when John went on, me and Clive stood behind John, and we threw spitballs at him. And of course, when I went on with Fudge, they threw spitballs at me too. So it was pretty wild. And I remember distinctly that night, Ludwig gave us all some brand new heavy-duty pedals, I believe, and some heavy-duty stands. And by the end of the night, we had broken them and gave it back to Ludwig and said, you have to make it stronger. Yeah, so I'll always remember that night.
Well, see, now if it was today, spitballs, broken drums, they'd all be on eBay. That's the difference, right? They'd be worth something, right?
That's true, yeah.
So back then, I mean, you're talking these names like they were just, you know, your buddies. was it more of a competitive environment, or was it more of a camaraderie that you guys had?
More of a camaraderie. It wasn't really a big business yet, and it was like, we were all friends. Like I helped John Bonham get his endorsement with Ludwig. Led Zeppelin was our manager was friends with Peter Grant, and that's why. And we had the same attorney, so that's why Zeppelin got on our tour. We heard their album way before it came out, and our manager said, "It's Jimmy Page's band." We knew Jimmy Page. We used to play with the Yardbirds, and Jimmy was in the Yardbirds, and we did gigs with them, a lot of gigs actually. So when he came out with the new band, and we heard the album, we said, "Yeah, we'd love them to open up," and they did, and we all became really great friends, And Jethro Tull, I think Clive was the most friendly of that crew. He was the one that we hung out, I did especially, mostly with Clive, So me, Clive, and Bonzo would hang out, before the show, after the show, because we're the drummers,
So hanging out with Zeppelin, hanging out with these guys, you've got a lot of downtime. You've got a lot of great experiences. And I don't even know if I should bring this one up, but this is a big thing in the book. This is a legendary night that you had with Bonham, with John Paul Jones, with the rest of the Zeppelin guys, and a mud shark.
Oh no! It's funny because that night was just a crazy night. It was a day off, and it was a groupie that I had originally found, and we went to play the Seattle Pop Festival. Next day we had a day off, and she came back and she ended up with the roadies overnight. And then the day we had a day off, so we were on the water at the Edgewater Inn. You could fish out the window, right? So some of the guys went and bought some fishing tackle. It was John Bonham, his wife, Bruce Wayne was our roadie. It was like Batman.
Like Batman.
and Richard Cole, and they were fishing out of their window, and we were in John Paul Jones' room. We were doing watching TV with the sound off, listening to Delaney and Bonnie and all that. We were smoking some pot and all that, and there's a knock on the door, and there's this groupie chick comes in. She'd been still hanging around with us, so she came in, and nobody thought anything of it. So we're all hanging out in there. It was Tim Bogert, myself, I don't know, might have been a couple other girls, and then there's a knock on the door, and in comes the other guys from next door with this mud shark fish, and following them in is Mark Stein, a keyboard player with an 8mm camera, and then all this crazy stuff started. I can't even talk about it.
I don't want to get a visual here. I just can't.
It's the most disgusting, craziest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then we moved out of there because it was so crazy. We got the doors open, everybody screaming and yelling. The manager came down and said, break this up. Okay, so me and John Paul Jones went to my room, all right? And John's in our room, and me and Tim and John. Next thing we know, the chick bangs on the door, and she's wearing John's robe, and she comes in my room. And then the other guys all followed. So now the scene is in my room, and this was so disgusting. I said, I got to get out of this room. And I said, I realized this is my room. I said, Tim, I'm coming into your room. So I went and stayed the night in Tim's room the next night.
I can't believe a song, Mud Shark, has never emerged from this experience.
It did emerge by
It did.
Frank Zappa.
Ah, he was there.
No, he wasn't there, but that night or the next day, we were going to another gig, and we flew into Chicago.
Okay, I remember.
We flew into O'Hare, and we ran into Frank and the mothers in the airport. And so Frank, we were friends with Frank. So Frank said to me, and probably Mark Stein, go, how you guys doing? I said, oh man, we're so fried. We didn't sleep much last night. Why not? And we told him the story. Next thing you know, Frank Zappa live at the Fillmore. There's a song called Mud Shark. Then with a funky groove, and you got these background singers going Mud Shark, and then he'd tell the story. He'd talk the story. if you were a groupie and you're in Seattle with Vanilla Fudge, and then he talk it. It was awesome.
Dweezil plays us quite often. I'm going to ask him to revive that song, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, there you go. Dweezil's on my Guitars record too.
Oh, just a great guy he is.
He is a great guy. Yeah, he came
so
in.
Humble,
He rocked.
So also in the book, you talk a little bit about your early management having something to do with the outfit. How did that happen?
Well, that's interesting too, because it started when I played this club called the Shell House. I played there 4 weekends. The first 2 weekends I played there, it was regular guys. Second 2 weekends I get there, it looked like all these mafia guys took over the place. They were wearing like black turtlenecks and sport jackets. So when I went to get paid, and I knocked on the door, and they go, "Who is it?" I go, "It's the band. I want to get paid." And they said, "Come on in." A really heavy, New York accent, heavy Brooklyn accent. And I said, "Just wait over there, wait over there." And then this guy comes out, it's Phil. He's got a scar on his face. And his partner, Chubby, comes out. And they go, "Oh, you in the band?" "Yeah, good job." And they paid me. It was no big deal. Next weekend, the same thing. And a couple of months later, I get the Pigeons, which was Vanilla Fudge. Mark Stein and Tim Boga come into a club I was playing at and asked me to join their band. They said, "Come out to our manager's club, the Action House." Now, this was like 6 months later, and the Action House had really become a famous club with the Vagrants playing there, and they were packing the place out, So I go out there, and we have rehearsal, and then I meet the manager. It's this guy, Philly, with the scar on his face.
Philly.
And I meet Chubby, and Chubby was like the heaviest guy. This guy was asked to be in The Godfather. They asked him to be a Luca Brasi, but Phil said it's too close to home, so he didn't let him do it. And then these guys became our manager. So as we hung out there, we noticed a lot of these mafia kind of guys hanging out. And I noted the look, because I used to play these social clubs in Brooklyn. We were the mafia social clubs. Mm-hmm. And I go, "Hey, your name Carmine?" "Hey, Italian." "Yeah, hey, Paisano, give me a $50 bill," And so we met Henry Hill.
Oh, wow.
Right? Mm-hmm. So Henry used to come to our house and go, "Hey, Carmine, I got this stuff. It just fell off a truck."
Oh, come on.
And he'd open up the trunk, and there'd be all this merchandise. I know they had Revox tape machines. At the time, they were $700 a pop. I go, "Is that a Revox?" "Yeah." I go, "Wow. How much?" He goes, $100 for you.
For you.
Said, "Really? I'll take 2 of them." "Okay. Is there any warranty?" He goes, "Yeah, I guarantee if it breaks, I'll give you another one."
Like your legs.
Yeah, and then, like your legs. And then we had to play a gig one time for the crew in Brooklyn at the club called Tempo Dance City, and we didn't get paid, and they kept the whole gate, So it was an interesting time.
Well, it's interesting, 40 years later, approximately, 2007, you start off with the Mob, and then in a crazy circle twist, you Keep Me Hanging On becomes a cliffhanger song in The Sopranos.
Exactly. Unbelievable, right?
40 years, how life comes full circle, right?
The funny thing about that is I lived in California mostly. I would come to the East and visit my girlfriend, but I wasn't really into The Sopranos yet, and it was the very last final episode. I had a group called Slam. Do we play your place with Slam? I don't.
Not yet. That's one that has.
No, it's gone. It's too much to put it together. But it was like a stomp, and buckets and trash cans and all that. It was a cool little show. So we were rehearsing at the house I'm in now in Connecticut. So everybody was staying here. We had 3 extra bedrooms. We had everybody staying here, so we can get up every day and rehearse. So they said, "Oh man, it's the final episode of The Sopranos tonight." So we said, "Well, let's make some pasta, and and we'll watch it all together." So we made the pasta. We sit down to watch it. It comes on. It opens up with "You Keep Me Hanging On," and I almost choked on the pasta because I didn't know it was going to be on, and it was amazing. I used it 3 times in the final episode.
Oh man, it's cool. I know. I was watching it last night. Actually. So you
Oh,
do
really?
have several. You got several other books out, several how-to books out, and I
Yeah,
understand that you gifted one of these books to someone that you not only it came as such a surprise, but also someone you're a little bit starstruck about.
totally starstruck. It's because, it was when I was playing with Rod. Rod lived in Hollywood. He was married to Alana at the time. He used to go out with Britt Eklund. These are like Hollywood women. Britt was a movie star. She knew everybody. Alana knew everyone. She was married to George Hamilton. So when we played L.A. that time, it was 6 nights at the Forum, and we did 20,000 people a night. It's a lot of
Oh,
people, and everybody came. There was the Rolling Stones and Aerosmith and Queen, and everyone is in town. Plus Tony Curtis, Gregory Peck, Fred Astaire, Valerie Perrine, and many other ones. So that one night, I noticed Fred Astaire and Gregory Peck there. I mean, come on, I've seen Moby Dick, I don't know how many times, and watched many, many Fred Astaire movies on TV. And, they were there, they left. Oh, about a week later, Rod had married Alana. Alan Carr, he was the director of the movie Grease. He had a big party for Rod and Alana at his house. So we went, the whole band went, and the wives at the time. And I drove my I had a big white Jaguar, looked like a Rolls Royce. I figured this is a good occasion to drive up in,
it
something
wasn't
that looked
white.
like
It was vanilla.
it was vanilla. That's right. But the interior was red. It wasn't fudge. So,
Ah, okay.
so I get out of the car and I'm walking around. And all of a sudden, I see a big guy walking towards me, and he comes up to me and I look and he's about 6'3", you know. He says, "Hi, I'm Greg." I said, "I know who you are." I said, "My mother would die if she was here." It's Gregory Peck. I said,
Wow.
"I'm Gregory Peck." Puts his hand out, so I shake his hand, and I said, "Wow, you know, how you doing?" "Good." He goes, "We were at the show the other night, and when you were doing your solo, I was sitting with Fred Astaire." I said, "Yeah, I know. I saw you guys." He said, "And when you did your solo, Fred turned to me and said, 'This is the best solo I've seen since Gene Krupa.'"
Wow.
And I went, "What?" And I'm
That's
thinking to
huge.
myself, I said, "Gene Krupa's my idol." I said, that's an amazing compliment. Then I'm thinking, Fred Astaire said that, and Gregory Peck is telling me this. This is like pinch myself. And then he says, Gregory says to me, "Fred is a drummer." I said, "No, I didn't know that."
Oh, I didn't know that either.
He said, "That's why he's a good dancer." I said, "Wow, I didn't know that." He says, "But he looks at guys like you," and he said to me, "I don't know how these guys play drums like that. I don't have the faintest idea how to start." So I said, "Well, I have a drum book. It's called Realistic Rock. It teaches you how to play rock drums. So maybe we should give one to Fred." So, so Greg says, "That's a great idea." So now Gregory lived right next to Rod Stewart. They both had these big mansions, right? So we used to practice at Rod's house, and he always knew when we were there practicing because you could hear it. So he
Hmm.
said, "Next time you're at Rod's house, knock on my door and give me a book and give it to Fred." I said, "Great." So next time I go there, knock on his door. You ring the buzzer, these giant gates open. You walk up this long driveway. You see these big giant, like 10-foot high, wood doors that look like a castle.
Wizard of Oz doors.
Yeah, yeah. You walk in there, and so I buzz the door. He comes to the door. I gave him a book, and I wrote it inside to Fred. Uh, I hope this book helps you play rock drums. I love your work. I've seen all your movies, blah, 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 something like that, Carmine Appice. He said, "Oh, great. He's going to love this." All right. So a couple of weeks later, we're rehearsing at Rod's, and I go in, we go into the kitchen, and Rod's publicist says, "Oh, there's a letter here for you. It says Carmine Appice, so it's for you." So I said, "Who's it from?" He goes, "I don't know. There's no address or nothing." It said Ava Productions. So I opened the letter up. I was very excited. I didn't know what it was, and I ripped the envelope up, threw it away, and I opened the letter, It's a letter from Fred Astaire.
Wow.
It says, "Dear Carmine Appice, thank you for the book with the lovely inscription. I've enjoyed your work many times. Keep it up. Love, Fred Astaire." And I went, oh my God, I cannot believe I got a letter from Fred Astaire through Gregory Peck. I said, this is like, unbelievable. Pinch yourself. This is like a kid from Brooklyn, grew up to achieve this. This is unbelievable,
And it just goes to show that you, a guy who's just hanging out at the bar with Zeppelin, The Doors, Who, Jeff Beck, all these legendary guys, but the guy that really impresses you is a Hollywood actor.
Yeah, because he was Hollywood royalty, I mean, all these other guys were guys coming up when we were coming up. Like Jimi Hendrix, I knew him before he was Jimi Hendrix. He was Jimmy James. He used to play the clubs in New York. We played gigs with him. We played a half hour, he played a half hour. And we'd smoke joints together, and he'd talk about making it. And I really didn't care about making it. I just wanted to make a living playing music like my drum teacher did, And he would have dreams of making it, being big and being a big record artist. And that didn't happen to me until 2 or 3 years later, when I ran into him again in London when he was Jimi Hendrix. Because when I saw pictures of him, playing with his teeth. I said, that looks like Jimmy James, because he played with his teeth also, except his hair used to be slicked back, and now his hair had the afro, which started a whole new, hairstyle for the African American community. So I said, that must be Jimmy James. So when we made it with Vanilla Fudge, we went to London. We're at the Speakeasy in London, and we're in the restaurant, and he comes in. So I go up to him. I said, Jimmy, you remember me? I played with you at the Lighthouse and a few other clubs. I had this group, the Three Beats. Or maybe it was Thursday's Children. I can remember. And we played, and we smoked joints. And he goes, yeah, I kind of remember that. He says, what are you doing here? I said, I'm in Vanilla Fudge. He goes, man, I love the fudge, he says. I said, oh, how cool, Because, it came from the same thing, the same area. He played all the clubs that we played in New York, And that was very cool to see that he made it. And then I went there, he sort of remembered, and he loved the band. And then we toured a lot with Hendrix.
So you're doing all this heavy metal stuff, this hard rock stuff, but also in the late in '69, '70, or so, the Motown sounds happening, James Brown's happening, the Temps, the Tops. How many of these guys did Rare Earth? I mean, did you have a whole lot of interaction or mutual respect for the R&B side of things at the time?
Totally. I mean, we did a lot of R&B stuff. We used to do a lot of Temptations. It's Growing. Ain't Too Proud to Beg. That was another one we did. And then we did the Impressions. People Get Ready.
Oh yeah.
We did Aretha Franklin stuff. Then we did Beatles. But when we started doing our album, that's when we started we were doing production numbers. That was the thing going around Long Island at the time. It came down from the Rascals. It went to the Vagrants, which had Leslie West in it. And it was called production numbers, where everything would be slowed down. But, the way we slowed down, we took lyrics and we created the musical environment for the lyrics instead of just slowing down anything. Like if you look at You Keep Me Hanging On, it was an up-tempo song. Set me free, why don't you, babe? Like that. And it's a sad song, but it was done in a happy spirit. So that happy spirit didn't translate for us musically. So we created a more of an emotional, hurting environment. When we go, set me free, it's almost like yelling, singing and yelling, but you feel the emotion.
But ironically, it's almost more soulful.
Exactly. We did it more soulful. And when we did like People Get Ready, which was soulful in the beginning, we made it sounded to us more like a gospel song. So we did the song with the organ and the vocal. I sang it, and I had the rest of the band singing gospel harmony behind me, you know. And then by the end, we built it up and raised the key, modulated, and really brought the energy to the end. And it was done like a gospel thing. Eleanor Rigby, you know, was done fantastic by the Beatles. But if you listen to the lyric, it was very, very, you know, eerie.
Mm-hmm.
Cemeteries, churches,
Yeah.
eerie stuff. So we set that mood for the eeriness in
With
that
the organ.
song. Yeah, with the organ and just the way we did it, and the vocals were eerie sounding. We used distant chord structures, you know, to make that weird, eerie kind of sound, you know.
And with all those influences, that's why I find it somewhat ironic and obviously very interesting that with all those influences and all those songs you could have broke out with and redone, which you did several, of course, but it was a Supreme song that really took you over the top. How did that happen?
Well, we cut the demo, you know, but we did notice when we played live gigs, we do all our other songs, but when we played that one, people would stop dancing and walk up to the stage and watch us because we were crazy. You know, and the sticks twirling, and Tim Bogert looked like he was spastic, you know, and Mark Stein with his waving arms, and everybody would come up and watch us. So we said, "Whoa, that's interesting," you know. So when we went in and Shadow Morton said, "Let's record that song," because he saw us live and saw the reaction of the people. So we went in and we recorded that a one-take mono.
Wow.
I think we did all the vocals and everything all together, right down to tape. And I always say it's 7.5 minutes that changed my life.
Oh, sure. And ours too, buddy. Ours too.
Yeah. And then he had friends on new underground radio starting to happen. Murray Decay and Scott Muni in New York. They had WOR FM was just starting to play underground stuff. So he gave them the demo, and they had like a rate the record on there, like a contest. They would always play 3 songs and have the audience call in and vote. So they put You Keep Hanging on with like the Beatles and the Beach Boys and us, and we won. And then they put us on with you know, whoever was the Beatles and the Kinks, and we won, you know. And then Atlantic Records was listening, and through that they signed us. Except we weren't called the Vanilla Fudge yet. I think we were called the Pigeons at the time. And then they said, "We hate that name. We got to change it." And we met a woman that said, "You guys are like White Soul, Vanilla Fudge." And we said, "Oh, that's interesting."
Wow. Okay.
So that's how we got Vanilla Fudge.
White Soul. I love that.
Yeah.
So, you know, we're going back. We're in the late 60s at the beginning of metal, of hard rock, of psychedelic rock, but it wasn't called that then. You didn't know that you were starting a whole genre of music.
No,
what were you calling it back then? What were you referring to it that back then?
Symphonic rock.
Symphonic.
Yeah, symphonic rock, because I was, you know, I started psychedelic symphonic rock because there was some classical elements in our stuff, you know, the build-ups and crescendos and dynamics. You know, we're like in Hanging On, dun, dun, then you know, all dynamics like classical music. You have a big, you know, all the big orchestra, and then all of a sudden there's a violin or a flute. You know,
well, it's a real precursor to progressive rock, really.
Yeah,
you know,
totally.
Especially when Mark did his thing, you know.
He did, because we had time signatures and our stuff. You go in and out 6/8 into 4/4, 3/4, and into 4/4. You know, we had different time signatures going. And
1 second here. Let's see what's happening.
What happened? Did you freeze? Uh-oh. I think we lost Ron.
Ron, we lost Ron. Why don't you set up the video and we'll play that while I try and get him back.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
There we go. How about now?
There's Ron. Yeah, we got you back.
I don't know what happened. There we go.
Okay.
So, well, anyway, I don't know what happened there.
That was a good trick.
Yeah.
How'd you do that?
You know, I'm a very talented individual when it comes to computers. I mean, how could somebody so non-knowledgeable of a laptop make stuff happen? I don't know.
You're like me.
So, let's fast forward a little bit here. Guys like Jeff Beck, that you started to do some projects with. Did you get close with him because of your connection with Led Zeppelin? A few of those guys. How did that relationship
Well,
happen?
it actually, we love Jeff Beck. And one time we had the same attorney. I didn't tell you this story. It's in the book as well. We were doing a Coke commercial, Vanilla Fudge, right? An audio Coke commercial, like things go
Really?
bad. We Coke, that kind of thing. And our guitar player.
Wait. Go back to that. What was the Coke commercial?
It was audio, an audio.
Yeah, let me hear it.
20,000 eyes upon you, 20,000 ears tuned in to the things we say, to the words we say. But the Coke we drink on stage helps fill with something. I don't know. Things go better with Coca-Cola.
Really?
Yeah, so what happened was Vinny got sick. So we were stuck. We were like, who are we going to get? Jeff Beck was in town. So our attorney called Jeff, and we asked Jeff if he'd do the commercial with us. He said, yeah, because he loved Vanilla Fudge too. So he came out and he played on these two Coke commercials. We did two songs that we wrote, and Jeff played on them. That's the first time we played together with Jeff, and Jeff loved playing with me and Tim. So later on, when we did a gig with Jeff Beck Group 10 years after, Edwin Hawke Singers, Oh Happy Day, you remember that song?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and Vanilla Fudge, Jeff Beck Group was playing. Led Zeppelin went up and jammed with them. And, how do you follow that? Jeff Beck Group with Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood jamming with Led Zeppelin, and we had to go on. That was probably when we realized it's time to move on, that we started Cactus. And because guitars were becoming more dominant in the music. And that night, after John Bonham took off his clothes on stage, and my mother and father said, why did he do that? We don't know. And he came in the dressing room and handed me Jeff Beck's phone number and said, Jeff wants to play with you and Tim. So we said, really? Because we want to play with Jeff. So we called him when he got back home, and we started setting up, that we're going to play with each other. And just before he came over with Peter Grant, his manager, to line it up, he got in a car wreck and put him out of business for 18 months. So in that 18 months, we had already broke up Vanilla Fudge. We had the name. It was going to be Cactus. It's going to be me, Tim, Jeff, and Rod. That would have been Cactus.
Wow.
And then Rod didn't want to work with Jeff, and she said, what was Jeff like in person? Jeff was a good guy, pretty much, when you're playing with him. He was a good guy. Very shy. Yeah, very shy guy. But so we started Cactus, and then when he was ready to come back 18 months later, we were already doing Cactus. And he put the Jeff Beck Group Volume 2 together, and he did that for about 6 months, and then they contacted us and said, Jeff still wants to play with you guys. And that's when we joined Jeff, and we did the first tour as a Jeff Beck Group featuring me and Tim and Jeff.
Wow.
And then the next tour was we did the album, then we did Beck, Bogan, Appice.
Yeah. Talk about a super group, man.
It was great playing. We had such great times.
So let's go to your buddy Rod Stewart. I mean, you spent how many years? 12, 15 with him?
No, I was only 8 years with him, but
8 years, yeah.
I did get him to write the intro to my book.
Yeah, I saw that. I mean, it seems like you guys are so close.
Yeah, I mean, we went through a bad time when he fired me. As he said in there, I think I can curse on this thing, right?
Sure.
He said, I fired Carmine, fuck knows why, and there he is. You see those doors? Those are the kind of doors Gregory Peck had, too. You see them doors? They look like a castle. And that was a Rod Stewart Group number 2. And, but we got over that, and then I got Rod and Jeff back together. That's a whole other story. That's in the book, too, because Rod...
That's legendary.
Yeah, Rod and Jeff had a feud going for years, and we ended up in a hotel together in Australia, right? And I ran into Jeff, and Rod was in the same hotel. And, I said, hey, why don't you come to the show tomorrow? And he just played a show in the same venue we played 2 nights, and then we played the stadium, And he said, no, Rod won't want me to come. I said, no, I'll check it out. So I talked to Rod. He goes, yeah, have him come. So the next day when he came, he walked in the dressing room. It was like time stood still for a minute, because nobody knew what to do. So I went over to Jeff, and I said, come on in. I said, Jeff, you know Rod. I said, Rod, you know Jeff. And they looked at each other, and they walked each other, and they gave each other a hug.
Oh, nice.
Next thing you know,
they
were friends again. And then Jeff stayed with me for like 2 weeks in L.A., well, in between projects. And, we were, I was not playing with Rod at the time, but we were all still friends. And Jeff said, man, is there somewhere we could do music? I know this ain't answering your question about Rod, but this is interesting.
It's okay.
So I said, let's go to Dwayne Hitchings' house, who was the guy that co-wrote Young Turks and helped me with Sexy that I presented with Rod. He had a little studio. So we went to his house, and we were jamming. We're jamming this song. We're jamming. And Dwayne says, hey, how about this lick? It was do-do-do-do, do-do. So Jeff picked it up and blah, blah, blah. So we started putting everything together. And I said, guys, this sounds like People Get Ready. I used to sing that with Jeff, with Vanilla Fudge. So I started singing it with it. I said, it is People Get Ready. So Jeff says, yeah, wow. We need somebody to sing it. Maybe we can get Rod to sing it, he said. I said, good idea. So we called Rod up, and the guy that gave me, the same guy that gave me the envelope, said, well, Rod's at Dan, I forgot the name, the Italian restaurant in Santa Monica Boulevard, eating. So we said, okay, good. In those days, there weren't any cell phones. So we went down there, meet Jeff and Dwayne. We had a cassette. So when we got there, Rob was just leaving. He was with some people. We said, hey, before you leave, come and listen to this in the car. So we played it from the car. We said, we want you to sing this. And he said, oh, man, People Get Ready. I love it. Next thing, a week later, we're in the studio. I had the headphones on. I had Jeff over there, Rod over there. And since I sang the song, I wrote the lyrics out for Rod. I pointed to him where to sing, pointed to Jeff where to play. Then Jeff and him went to the pub. And me and this engineer and Dwayne Hitchings, we put the whole track together. And then his manager calls me and says, Jeff's manager, hi, darling. He's very English. He said, hi, darling. What would you like? How much you want for the track? I said, I don't want anything. Just give me a co-production credit. I don't care if it's co-produced by all four of us. He says, okay. So then the song comes out, produced by Jeff Beck. Thanks to the boys. I said,
thanks a lot, right?
Yeah, thanks a lot. And then they did the video. Did they even ask me and Dwayne to be in it or be involved? No. And
it's rock and roll, right?
It's unbelievable, man.
Well, what was a typical night? I mean, you see Rod in his videos, you see his style, you see him on stage, just how colorful and crazy. What was a typical night after a Rod Stewart show? Well,
Rod was always either married or going out with someone. So he's never really got involved in all the crazy stuff that we did. Yeah. Before that he did, like, when he was with the Faces and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But at this time, I mean, the craziest thing we do, like one of our roadies would get a woman in the room and we'd all hide in the closets,
That's creepy.
or behind the curtains. And then when he was like getting down with it, one of us would walk out and go, oh, hi, mate. And he'd go, oh, hi. And then we'd walk through the door and walk out the door, and then he gets back into it. And then another one would do it. And
that's funny, though.
And we did another crazy thing, which is in the book. I can't remember the. Oh, I know what it was. It was the Sex Police, right?
Okay.
Sex Police was something. If you notice, there's some pictures of us with Sex Police T-shirts on, and what that was, if you had a woman in the room, and you hear her coming up the street, coming up the hallway of the hotel, Sex Police, we're the Sex Police, and you hear them all stomping their feet.
Oh, the Dragnet tune.
Yeah, exactly. And there would be like 10 of them, and they would bang on your door, sometimes break the door down, or just destroy whatever you had going for yourself in the room. So, and one time I was with a woman, and we're getting down. I hear that coming up the street, and the hallway. And I said to her, hold on, be quiet. She goes, why? I said, listen. And we heard it, and she goes, so? I said, if they hear you in here, they'll break the door down and they'll take all your clothes and throw them out the doorway, and you'll be like running around with a towel. And she was with the record company, and she didn't want to be caught in the room.
Oh, man.
So she actually got dressed and walked out.
Well, there's a mood killer there.
Oh, my God.
So you had also a really interesting story about sharing a house with Prince?
Yeah, that was in the early 80s, before he really made it. Cavallo Ruffalo and Farnoli were managing him. It was a woman named Jamie Shoup, who was a good friend of mine, that was working for them. And we were talking with them about managing Vanilla Fudge, and we're hanging out with them. And Farnoli, we know from the days, the beginning of Vanilla Fudge, when in Newport, Rhode Island, when we were just starting out. And now he was a big manager.
Okay.
So he wanted to get involved in us. And I had just got it.
We lost it again. Let's see here.
Okay. Well, you were still moving on mine. But anyway, so he wanted to get involved with Vanilla Fudge. Okay. And we, we're hanging out with him. And Jamie was in this house, and she needed some money because she was running behind on her payments. So I lent her some money, and she put me on the house as a second mortgage kind of thing, And I was getting divorced at the time, so I needed a place to stay. But I also had another girlfriend that lived in the same town, so I stayed mostly at her house. But I had a room there, and I had a bunch of stuff there, and I had my cars there. And she said, but we have this young act named Prince that when he comes in, he doesn't like to stay in hotels. And he usually stays in my house here, in that room. Is that okay? I said, yeah, it's okay, because, I'm always staying at my girlfriend's house anyway. So Prince used to come in and stay, and he'd go to studio and come. So, I would go in the house during the day and like get some clothes or grab something. I see Prince there. I go, hey, Prince, how you doing? I'm all like uppity and, how you doing? He goes, I'm okay.
But how did he get,
and that was it.
If he wasn't that big at the time,
no.
How did he get involved in a big group like yours?
In that house?
Yeah.
Well, it was my friend's house.
Oh, I see.
It was my friend Jamie's house, her house. It's a 2-bedroom small house in Studio City, And so basically, I would walk in the house later and he'd be very short with me, like, man, is that you? Is that you? Is that your track? He said, wow, it's really funky. It's really cool. Who's playing bass? Me. Who's playing guitar? Me.
Oh, yeah.
Playing drums? Me. I said, you're playing everything? I said, wow, that's great. And then I got to know him, so he warmed up a little bit. I remember one time he played with the Rolling Stones at the Coliseum in L.A., and they booed him off the stage.
Really?
Came home, he was so depressed. And so me and Jamie were sitting around the table with a cup of tea, talking to him. And I was saying, hey, dude, don't even think about that, man. My first gig with Vanilla Fudge on the West Coast with the Mamas and the Papas, they were booing us too, but we told them we're going to play whether you like it or not. So you might as well enjoy it, And then we got off the stage and the boos went to light, clapping. So don't even worry about it, And he was, we calmed him down and stuff. And then we got to know him more. And one time he wanted me to drive him to Hollywood because he didn't like taking taxis and he didn't drive. So I had a Pantera at the time, so I took him in the Pantera.
Oh, wow.
I got to say, I scared the hell out of him. I got to say. But he was a nice guy, And, he was so shy that I never saw him play. Finally, when he started getting big, he was playing Universal Amphitheater. And he invited me and Jamie and my girlfriend to see him. And I went to see him. I went backstage and say hi to him and everything. And then I'm sitting there watching him. He comes out in women's underwear, and he's laying on a mattress on the stage, having sex with the mattress on stage. And I turned to Jamie. I said, this is the same guy that lived in the house? I said, it was like a
Came
whole
out of his shell, huh?
Unbelievable. And then when they did the premiere for Purple Rain, he invited me to the premiere, and sitting next to me was Sheila E. Before she was famous.
Sure.
And I didn't know who she was. She didn't know who I was. And we talked, and we got to be friends. So
great lady. Great lady.
Really great, really great. All this stuff's in the book. It's really, a good read, with all this.
Oh, I love it.
I've
got
been
my name.
blessed. I've been blessed with my life. I had a lot of great stories, met a lot of great people, hung out with a lot of people, had a great career, did a lot of great playing, great gigs.
So you got a great book about your life. If there was a movie to come out about your life, this a friend of mine, Jack, asked this question: who would you like to play you in that movie?
Oh my God.
And if Brad Pitt wasn't
I mean,
available,
it depends. It depends on where in my life they're starting, because you're gonna have to get different people for young Carmine, a middle-aged Carmine, and the old Carmine. But I don't know. That's a good question. I'd have to research new actors, and then middle-aged actors, and the older actors.
well, I think
And I'm
De
bad. I'm
Niro's got to
bad
be
with
in there.
remembering names. I'm better at remembering Gregory Peck than I am with Brad Pitt and some of the guys today.
Well, let's see if Brad Pitt, George Clooney. Let's see what they're doing.
There you go.
Hey, so your brother, Vinny.
Yeah, Vinny.
Just another legendary performer. Hopefully, we could do this kind of thing with both of you guys one day.
Yeah,
We
we
look
could
forward
do
to do
that.
that.
That'd be
There's a
great.
lot of stories and we can go into that a whole nother hour about the stories that cover you both. Look at that. That's a
Look
great
at that.
album cover.
And what's funny about that picture? If you look at it, if you put your finger over Vinny's forehead, two fingers to cover the forehead, it looks like the same face, but
Scary.
both of our faces stitched together like Frankenstein.
Well, he
But,
obviously, he Black Sabbath. He's with Dio. There was a very special, interesting story about your bachelor party.
Oh yeah, that was a very interesting story. I think it was when I got married in '83. I've been married too many times and divorced, so
I lost track myself.
yeah, I know. That's why I'm with my girlfriend 17 years. And she said, people go, "Are you going to marry him?" And go, "Marry him? I'll marry anybody." Al Pacino. He could be the old me, Al Pacino. But anyway, so I was back in the day when I was getting married. So my manager said, "Hey, we're going to go to the strip bar and have like a drink with a couple of friends for you as your like bachelor party, kind of drink for your wedding." I said, "Oh, okay." So we went there, and as soon as I walked in the lobby, I see Ronnie Dio there. I said, "Ronnie, what are you doing here?" He goes, "I come here sometimes." I said, "You do? Come all the way out here?" Because it's like a half hour, 35 minutes from Hollywood and the Valley. I said, "Wow, that's amazing that you come all the way out here." So then I walk in the place, and next thing I know, everyone goes, "Surprise!" There's like 30 people, all my friends. Next thing I know, I'm on the stage with 40 boobs taking a picture. And then I find out that Ronnie actually hooked up that strip bar because he used to go to it. And I wouldn't be surprised if he paid for it. I'll tell you the truth, because he was that kind of guy.
Good guy.
A good guy. Yeah, that picture was at the bachelor party.
Wow.
That picture was at the bachelor party. And I remember it now. And Vinny reminded me that that's how it got hooked up. So, we were friends all through the career that my brother played with Vinny, with Dio, and basically Dio was like a fourth brother. We have three brothers. He was like a fourth brother because he lived in L.A. He was Italian. Him and Vinny were the only two in all the bands he played that were Americans. So there was a lot in common. I knew him from when he was in Elf. Used to hang out at the Rainbow with Deep Purple. They were opening for Deep Purple, I believe. And so we all got to be really good friends. So when he got really sick, we were in the hospital with him. We saw him, in really bad shape. And the next day he passed away. We went to the funeral, saw him in the coffin. We went to the burial. I mean, it was just awful. And so years later, wasn't too much later, we were doing a King Cobra album. And I'm telling you the story of how this song Monsters and Hero came about and what we just did with it.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing an album with King Cobra. Paul Shortino was the singer, and we wrote this song It was called Monsters and Heroes. It was going to be about Halloween. You know, your monsters and heroes, like Frankenstein was your hero and the Wolfman when you were a kid. You know, and then Paul said, why don't we write this about Ronnie Dio? You know, called Monsters and Heroes, Dragons, Rainbows in the Dark. I said, wow, that's a great idea. So we did that. We recorded it with King Cobra, gave it to Wendy Dio, and then Wendy used it in her Dio Cancer Fund, right? And all the royalties from the King Cobra track went to Wendy. 5 years later, we got it back. And at that point, we were doing mine and Vinny's album. So I said to Vinny, we should play this song because it's about Ronnie. Listen to it. And he loved it. I said, Paul used to be managed by Ronnie and Wendy. Ronnie produced Paul. So there was a good, you know, connection with the three of us. So why don't we do it? And Paul's already on the song. We'll put you on it, Vinny, and this could be a song for the Peace Brothers. So we did that. And it came out on the album, and that was the main song, main video on the albums. And then 2.5 weeks ago, Vinny calls me and said, we want to do one of these lockdown videos. You know, everybody's doing, where everybody's in a different place. So we said, let's do that. And we decided to do it. And then Vinny said, well, I would like to make this special somehow. I said, yeah, let's try and make it special, you know, for a good reason why we're doing this, not to just do it. Then he said, you know what? In 2.5 weeks, it's the anniversary of Ronnie's passing. It's a 10-year anniversary. Why don't we dedicate it to Ronnie, Vinny said, and do like a tribute. I said, oh, man, that's a great idea because this song is all about Ronnie.
Sure.
So I said, well, let's get somebody to be a PR guy to get us to do a bunch of interviews so we can get as many people to hear it, to pay tribute to Ronnie along with us. So we can get, you know, some radio people and get it, you know, on all their social media and podcasts and this and that. So we did that. And then we completed the video. And the video is awesome because, you know, a lot of the bands do the video. It's like we are. There's a screen for me and a screen for you, then a screen for the bass player. And it just stays like that. But on this video, the screens move around along with the song. And the song is high energy, and so is the editing on this video. So we just released it today.
Wow.
To all the radio, and we gave an MP3 to radio, interviews that we did, and everyone that we did, our PR guy sent out. Plus, I have some radio people that we sent out to. They played it on the radio, put it up on their socials, on their websites. So we want to get as many eyes and as many people to have Ronnie Dio and this tribute on their lips. I mean, we're not making any money out of it because, you know, nobody makes money anymore in the music business. It's just the fact that we wanted to do this, and then we figured we did it for Ronnie and to keep him because we all miss him.
Well, I love it. I love the project. I can't wait to hear it. I can't wait for you to come back to the Arcada with Cactus, with the Fudge, with Drum Wars, with anything else that you're going to be doing. I got to say that being with you tonight was so special for me, for everybody out there. You are a true rock and roll legend, but you're a true great guy.
Thank you.
We say long live Carmine.
I can't believe it's been an hour.
Wow. Oh, yeah. We could do this for hours. We'll do it again. We'll do it, Vinny, again.
Do it again. Let's do it again. We'll bring Vinny on, and we really have some fun. Well, Vinny's a comedian.
Great hanging with you. It was great hanging with you.
Vinny's a comedian. You know that. He's always making everybody laugh.
I tell you what, the stuff that we do with him, too. Just, you know, God bless the Appice mom.
Yeah.
God bless your mother.
Yeah, when Vinny started playing, it's in the book too, and we wrote this on a song on our album, Brothers in Drums. She said, "He's driving me crazy like you did." Said to me, and we put that in the song when we were talking about Vinny starting to play and how he's playing all the time. And my mother said that, and then we continued the song.
Well, again,
it's great.
So much love to you, your brother, your family. Long live you guys. Can't wait to see it not only at our theater, but all around the world. It's been great on this crazy artist and lockdown episode. Yep. But wish you the best, man. I really, really do.
Thank you, man. Now let's play the video, okay, Ben? We have a producer named Ben Ben Wheeler that's producing, putting up all these pictures, and thanks to them, and thanks to Steve Love Productions for putting this together.
Yep. Thanks, Steve.
Thanks to you, Ron, for being the host. You're a great host, and
Thank you.
we love playing your venues, and you make the best meatballs.
Thank you, buddy. All right, let's check out that video.
There you go. I don't have any sound.
Looks good.
It's going out to the stream.
Wow, what a song. What a song, man.
Good song.
Well, there's several different incarnations of it.
Yeah, unfortunately, the right side was not on. That's when Mike's side was. See, we got Vinny on the left and me on the right. So what we heard was only Vinny's part. My part was somehow not on, so, but it's cool.
So
Song
when
is
you guys
great. The
plan
video's
on,
awesome.
do you guys plan on playing that if when we do a drum war show?
Oh, we always play it. We get the audience singing Monsters, and we go Monsters, and the audience sings Hero. You know, we did it with King Cobra at the Sweden Rock Festival. We had the whole 8,000 people singing it with King Cobra years ago.
Well,
So,
it's been great spending this hour with you, buddy. You're a rock
all
and roll
right,
legend.
dude. Thank you,
I
bro.
love you,
A lot
bro.
of
All
fun.
the best, man. All the
Yeah,
best.
talk to you
Long live
soon.
Vanilla Fudge. Long live Cactus. Long live all your projects. But more
Thank,
importantly, more long live Carmine. Love you,
thank
brother.
you. I'm staying with you. Thank you.
Good night,
All
everybody.
right.
Thanks for
Night.
joining us on Artist
Night.
Lockdown.
See ya.